I will pay you full and you don't need to fight. Cancel this last fight. I start laughing and I say, I came here to fight. I say, just put me and him in there and lock that cage and let me deal with the rest.
You're in the cage in a no rules fight and somebody outside the cage is slashing you with a knife.
At that moment, the thing was so tense. There was people shooting, bullets flying everywhere. It was an intense and beautiful day. I miss those days a lot. Jiu-Jitsu is an amazing tool to help people. People say, but physically, I don't think I'm fit for Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu will fit you.
Renzo, again, I want to thank you for changing my life. I don't know what I would have done without the Jiu-Jitsu because of your academy in New York. It's why this show even exists. So again, I'm one of many millions of people around the world that probably owes you a big debt. You've got a huge heart, Renzo.
Thank you, my brother. It's a pleasure to have you as part of our family. Never stop dreaming. And people ask why I don't sleep much. It's because it's while I'm awake that I dream in getting better and making people around me better. I live my dreams and I make them happen.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go? This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Renzo Gracie, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, MMA fighter, and founder of the Renzo Gracie Academy. You are the grandson of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu founder Carlos Gracie and began competing in Vale Tudo, or no rules fights in Brazil in 1992, and went on to compete at the Pride Fighting Championships in Japan and the UFC in America. In a career spanning 18 years, you achieved victories against champions like Frank Shamrock, Carlos Newton, Maurice Smith, and Oleg Taktarov, and became one of the most popular fighters in the sport. In 2018, you returned to the octagon to defeat Yuki Kondo at the age of 51 in Legends Showdown and are currently looking for your next fight. You pioneered the growth of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in America by creating the Renzo Gracie Academy in New York City. You've trained legends, including George St. Pierre, Matt Serra, Ricardo Almeida, and John Danaher, with your goal to continue passing on your knowledge to champions of the future. Renzo, welcome to London Real.
It's a pleasure. You just forgot one little detail. You should have said the most handsome Gracie, you know.
That's true. You are pretty handsome.
Thank you.
I must say.
I tell them.
You're handsome. Now, Renzo, I got to start off and tell you my jiu-jitsu story. Can I tell you?
Please.
Okay.
I'm excited to hear it.
Okay.
You've been to my academy a few times.
Yeah.
I didn't have the opportunity to give you a hug.
Yeah, no. So I'll tell you my story. So I'll start in 2001. I was in New York City. I was living the New York City bright lights, big city lifestyle. I lived on Houston between Avenue A, and I was partying, I was drinking, I was into drugs, and my life was going downhill, Renzo. I was almost 30 years old, and my life was a mess. And that year,
it's amazing how one thing drags the other.
Oh yeah.
You don't realize it escalates in such a way that if you're not careful, you know?
Yeah, and that's what happened to me. I had a girlfriend for 4 years. We broke up that year. As you know, 9/11 happened that year, so the planes went into the Trade Center. I was living not far away, and I overdosed from drugs that year, all right? I overdosed from heroin that year, and it was the lowest point in my life. And luckily, I got out of New York City because I had to get out of that city, and I moved to London in January 2002. And about 4 months later, one of my good friends from New York called me up and he said, Brian, you gotta try something. And I said, what? I said, what? He said, it's called Jiu-Jitsu. I'd never heard of it before. Nobody had really heard of it unless you really knew what was going on. And he said, you gotta try it. And And Renzo, I had never done any real physical activity in 10 years since I was in high school, right? I was all about my brain. You know, I studied in engineering. I worked on Wall Street, all that stuff. And I Googled it. Google was probably just invented. And I found a guy in London who was one of Roger Gracie's students, actually. And we started training one Saturday a week. And I kid you not, Renzo, I trained every week for 8 years. One Saturday became Saturday and Sunday. And Jiu-Jitsu gave me my life back. I was a shell of a man, and it built me up. It got everything back right in my life. I got my blue belt, got my purple belt later from Roger Gracie. I started training boxing, Thai boxing. It changed everything. And today I'm sober. I got a beautiful family. I'm doing this show. But Renzo, if it wasn't for, and my buddy was training, he was training at your academy in New York City. John Danaher was his coach. He trained at the old place on 37th Street and 8th Avenue. And I'll tell you, the last part of the story is I went back to New York City a year later. And I wouldn't go back to New York because I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to relapse. But I waited a year and I came back to New York and we went and we trained a private with John Danaher at your old studio above the methadone clinic on 37th Street. And that was my journey, man. And I've been, you know, off the drugs since then. So I just want to thank you, man. You gave me my life back.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful, brother. This Jiu-Jitsu is an amazing tool to help people, to make them stronger. It's a funny thing. People say, but physically, I don't think I'm fit for Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu will fit you. Even if you're a midget, doesn't matter. You're going to be good. You know, I have two students that they are handicapped. They don't have the movements from the legs. And every time they are in New York, one of them fights a lot, competes a lot. And every time he's in New York, I go there and I stay hours with them on the mat to exchange knowledge because they find leverages in things that for the fact that I have the movements of my legs, I can never develop. And I learn from them a lot. You know, they come back to teach me, you know, it's insane. So in reality, you just described Jiu-Jitsu perfectly. It adapts to you, it changes you. It's an amazing tool to make you build your inner strength and make a better you. You know, it's amazing. And I'm in awe that what you just described me is what I've been feeling since I was 5 years old.
It's incredible. And like you said, it gave me confidence. It gave me everything. I taught my daughter Jiu-Jitsu, 7 years old. We used to go every week so she can choke me out now. And now my little boys are getting 3 and 4 and they're going to be learning Jiu-Jitsu too. So, and like you said, anyone can learn it. Grandmas, younger people, older people. And we'll get into later how you teach because that's something special. But I want to start off with your story because, you know, you're a little bit older than me, not much. You grew up in Rio de Janeiro in the 70s, right? And I remember an interview that you gave one time where you said, my life was like the Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue. And if people don't know the song, it's called A Boy Named Sue. And Sue is a girl's name if people don't know. So if you're a boy and you're called Sue, you get beat up all the time. And Renzo had his last name Gracie, and you're in Rio de Janeiro. So I guess everybody looks at you and says, oh, this is the tough guy. This is the guy with the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. What was it like growing up as a Gracie? What was it like growing up in Rio de Janeiro in the 70s?
It was very different, especially on the 80s. On the 78, I moved to Barra da Tijuca. And when I moved there, it was a very desolated area. And I started seeing that the females' relatives couldn't go to the beach because you'd have perverts there doing things on the beach. You would have people selling drugs. And I was just a kid. I was 12, you know. So, and then I went to surf in a spot. They kicked me out. They didn't let me surf there, saying that I didn't know how to surf. I was going to hurt someone. Get out of here. They kicked me out. I moved 500 yards down the beach, and I put a group of like 12, 13 kids that they were kicked out the same way as I did. And I started training. We started surfing. And I start teaching them Jiu-Jitsu. We're together build a crew of like, in the end, we're like 16, 17 kids, you know, like average 12 to 15 years old. And then one day I say, now it's time for us to take over the good spot of surfing. So, and I remember this week I was in Brazil and there's an older guy he was a police officer back then. He was actually a lifesaver on the beach, and then they turned them into a police officer. So he's looking, he goes, Renzo, he just saw me there, you know, because I always go back to that trailer where back then, I remember the guys, they used to come and give me a hot dog. They say, Renzo, you didn't eat today. Here, have a hot dog, you know? They always look after me. So every time I'm there, I just went there again to have a hot dog, and I left $500 for them, you know, and they are the kids of the parents who used to give me the hot dog.
Wow.
And this is from Uncle Renzo here, you know? So, and the father was there, and he looked and he goes, Renzo, I still remember I was here and I look and I see that bunch of kids, like 15, 17 kids walking. They could barely carry the surfboards. And they came over and I think, what the heck is this? And you guys came and took over the spot. We put up a pirate flag there. We only allowed to surf there, our friends and the good people. If you come and use drugs at the beach, we'd kick your butt. We clean. I went to school with the kids from remember the movie, City of God?
Yeah, of course.
I was in a public school, so we went to school together, and fate, because of the situation they were, made them all drug dealers, you know, they would sell the drugs. So I would go there and tell them, look, cannot have drug sales on this spot. Anybody that comes to buy drugs from us, make sure that he cannot go cross this street. Otherwise, we're going to beat them up. We don't want this. The police love us. Everything, like I was there now, the police come to hug me, you know, just now. They go, Renzo, they put in a statue of me on that beach.
They are.
Very uncomfortable with this because they normally put a statue of someone who died, never someone alive. I told them, maybe you guys wait a little. They go, no, you deserve to see this while you are alive. And with that, I kept all the kids on my side. I end up opening a restaurant and bar that I run it and helped my family from I was 16 until I was 22. You know, I used to sell 27 kegs of beer a night. Was the #1 bar in Rio. Today, the whole street, it's bars and party. This street was based on my restaurant. And with that, I was able to run all my friends around there. I'll put them to help me work. I gave them jobs, and we changed a lot of lives. And one time, and we have my mother move out of the house. It was a big 10-bedroom house. So any kid that had a problem with drugs, with alcohol, we put them in a house with us. We teach them Jiu-Jitsu. We teach them how to eat the Gracie diet, how to do it right. And recently, I was in Houston doing a seminar, and I told the story. I was telling about this house. And that's the house that you see the fights on it. The door was never locked. It was never locked. And I was telling the story. One guy raised a hand and say, I know this is true. And I want to tell everybody that it's real true what he's saying. And then I say, how do you know? He goes, I was there, Hans. You don't remember me, but I was there. I was 12 years old. And I had a drug problem, and you put me in the house. I lived there for 6 months with you. I said, I can't believe it. He goes, yeah, I was one of the kids.
Wow.
So it was an unbelievable childhood. It was different. I was just there now last week. I just came back from Brazil this week. And the police, when I decide to leave, they say, no, please, we're going to give you a salary, and we pay all the expense of the house. You keep doing the job. They call it the crazy guy's house, the crazy guys.
Because you kept order. You guys kept order.
Yes. Yeah, and we take care of the neighbors. There was no more people stealing in our neighborhood. There was no more perverts pulling over and bothering the woman. There was no more drugs being sold. It was clear. It was not allowed from that point on. And we had the support of the police, of the citizens, It was unbelievable. It was an unbelievable experience. And recently they decided to put a statue there of me,
Wow.
They asked if I want to from the chest up or a whole body. I said, we don't do nothing half. If we're going to do it, I want a gi on one side and a surfboard on the other. Yeah.
Wow. And so what's it like growing up in a family like the Gracies where, all of your grandparents and uncles, they all fight, but you don't have to fight, I guess, but then you guys all end up fighting anyway. So how does that work, that dynamic?
It's a funny thing. First, you have while the kids are looking in DC Comics to find their heroes, I had all my heroes inside my house. Everybody that I admire, everybody that I saw competing, that I saw how hard they work. And you have to understand one thing. I never thought I would be able to make money and just with jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu back then, you couldn't make a dime. I used to work the whole day, end up the month with maybe $800, $900, you know? And I was the lucky one, and I really work hard, sometimes 7 days a week. So I never thought I would be able to make money. I was looking to maybe be a lawyer, working in different things. I was buying and selling medical products from the United States and selling in Brazil, bringing to Brazil, because back then the Brazilians didn't have access to those equipments. Was many different things. And I thought, one day I'm going to be rich. It doesn't matter what. I work hard, and I think money is the result of a good work you do in life. But I was lucky that I moved to New York, and I end up killing. So I didn't need to do nothing else. You know, I live today in a mansion, and thanks to jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And to be honest, I thought jiu-jitsu even took too long to grow. I really thought it took too long, because it's exactly like you say, such an amazing tool to improve people's lives, to change people's lives, to give you confidence. I remember the first time they made it was not even Facebook, or something else, the name before. And MySpace.
Yeah.
They made MySpace, and they came to me, Renzo, you need to put yourself. I said, for what? All the network that I need is in here. It's inside our academy, you know? And I already have trouble to keep everybody's name. So how come I'm going to go? I don't need a social media. It was a funny time. And we end up having 1,500 students in the main academy in New York, the one that you came on 30th Street.
Wow.
And before that, above the Methadone clinic was the craziest time ever, you know? That was the first place that I could open myself, and I could afford to open. After a few fights, I opened the place, and someone told me, but there's a Methadone clinic here. I say, what is Methadone? And the guy, Methadone? I say, let me guess, like Alcohol Anonymous or Drug Anonymous or whatever. He goes, yes. I said, don't worry, we're going to fix them. But I never realized that in reality, the drug level here was different from what I've seen in Brazil, because they had heroin, they had heavy drugs that I never heard of, you know, and to help them was extremely hard, believe it, to get. And I was angry because I couldn't get nobody from that clinic
to go to your
train with us. Yes. And we could fix them, you know.
Okay.
I became friends with them all, but I couldn't help them.
Couldn't help them. Well, I want to get to New York City for sure, but tell me a little bit about Rio. I mean, growing up, it was a crazy time for you. You talked about getting stabbed, getting shot at, and then actually getting shot. And then later you went into some of the fighting. But like, what was it like back then? When we seen the movie City of God, I mean, was it that crazy?
It was. Even though the City of God, I would go there daily almost, because my friends from school were from there. And my mother always made clear, doesn't exist such a thing as social differences. If he's your friend, he can be in the mud and you're there with him. And that's how I was raised. I would go sleep in the favelas with them, on their house as a guest. They would put a blanket over something and I would sleep right there, you know, and they would sleep in my house too at the same time.
That's very Brazilian, right?
Yes. And we made friends. Once the doors and the windows are closed, everywhere is a bed, you know, like you can sleep anywhere.
Is that a Carioca thing or a Brazilian thing? Because
it is, I believe it's a Brazilian thing. Brazilians think like that. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Because in Rio,
there's no place for me to sleep. They laugh. Every couch, every floor, every carpet, it's a bed waiting for you, you know?
Right. And so you spend time
you have a roof every time.
Because in Rio, the favelas are right next to the really nice houses, are right next to, everyone's on top of each other, and it all
very close, because the mountain is very close to the ocean.
Right.
So the world people lives around the ocean, and then there's the mountains next, and normally the favelas expand on that direction, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because people don't want to live in the hills, so this way they start building houses there, and they end up staying there.
I actually went on a favela tour, which sounds like a horrible American tourist thing to do, but it was one of the best experiences of my life, Renzo. We went to, I think it was Rocinda favela, right there.
Rocinha. I used to go there on my restaurant. What happened back then, all the supermarkets would close on Friday night. They would only open on Monday. So the only place that I could buy meat, chicken, eggs, and a bunch of other things was on the favelas. So I was there every weekend, because we even though we had everything, we would sell out completely by Friday night. Okay. So on Saturday at 8 o'clock in the morning, I was in the favela, And I knew them all. They would pass by me carrying guns. Hey, Renzo. I say, hey, guys. Well, the first time I was there that I saw them, I said, we were in war and I don't know it. You know? And
it was crazy. I think there's, and this favela, it's right in Rio. It's just north of Leblon, I think. And it's like 100,000 people maybe. And
it's more. It's more.
More. And we went into this, and it's not what you think it is. So we got a tour, and they allowed us to walk in, and this one of the favelas where I guess the drug dealers allow you to come in. And we went into someone's house, and you look at their houses, and you think it's like a shanty house, but inside his house, he had the big TV, he had the stereo system, and then I looked and I saw the whole favela, and you've got people living, you got open sewers, and then the drug dealers would walk by, and everyone would kind of be like this. But it all kind of worked somehow. It was something beautiful about it.
It is. It's different. It's extremely different. But you see, 99.9% of the people who live in the favela are very hard workers. People don't realize that. They are honest, they are hard workers, and then they want a good living like all of us, you know, and they normally go on their house and they work hard to buy a nice TV, I remember my boxing coach lived in the favela. And I brought him on all my fights, on everything that I did. He used to work in an accounting office. Okay. The other day, someone sent me a tape of him telling the story. You know, someone sent me a video of him telling the story.
Okay.
And he was telling, the guy is filming him without him knowing how I took him out of his job. I said, you're not made to work in the office. You're going to work teaching box. Today, he has a huge program.
That's not Claudio Coelho, is it?
Of course.
I trained with Claudio up in the favela.
I love him. And the program that he runs in the favela, I say, this is your call in life. Take these kids out of go into the pathway of drugs, make them fighters. They're going to have a job like you did. And he ended up earning like 10 times more than he was actually earning when he was working in the accounting office, you know. And the best was, this to prove that I wasn't wrong. The moment that he said, look, I want to try something, my student asked me to be teaching, and he's going to get me a group of students. I love to work here, but I want to try this. And his bosses say, Claudio, please go. And we wish you all the success in the world. But know one thing, you can come back here. You have a job at any time. You can come back and work with us. You know, that shows how great of a soul he is, you know?
That's amazing.
You know him. That's beautiful.
I know him. So just briefly, I mean, I started, like I said, training Jiu-Jitsu in London. I fell in love with it, and I didn't make it to Rio until 2005, 2006. I trained at Gracie Barra in Barra da Tijuca. So I trained there. And then later, I trained at the Brazilian top team with Murilo Bustamante at the
best, great teacher too. I love it.
And it was at the AABB right there, you know, by the lagoon.
Next to the favela. And there's a favela next door, the project.
Yeah, there's one right there. And at that time, the Brazilian top team was stacked with the people. It was like 2006 or 7, maybe. And I walked in, and it was both Nogueira brothers, right? Bustamante. It was Anderson Silva was actually training with them at the time. It was a couple others were there, and I was like, oh my.
Mario Sperry, everybody.
Yeah, Sperry.
An amazing team, amazing.
And Pride Fighting Championships, which we'll get into because you fought there. That was bigger than the UFC back then. And then at the end of it, of a week training with Murilo, he said, do you like boxing? I said, yeah. He said, I'm going to introduce you to Claudio Coelho. So I spent a week training with Claudio in the favelas, and it was amazing. But man, getting up there was tricky. Because you got to go through.
You went by the elevator or you drove?
The elevator was broken because it was Christmas. So I had to walk up the stairwell in the dark. Man, that took some guts. So again, Claudio's.
It was different.
It was different. He's amazing. So yeah, great stories of Rio. Tell me how there's that famous fight in Rio where you're fighting in the cage and then the whole arena gets into a fight. And the reason I ask you about that, because maybe you can tell me how you got there in the first place. Like, why were you fighting? There was also different fight camps in Rio, right?
Yeah.
Like the Luta Livre and the Jiu-Jitsu guys. What was it going on there?
The reason why I was here in America and I was having a problem with my partner, and I need money to cover the lawyer's expenses, to pay my green card things here and to set up everything so I could be independent. So I booked a fight in Brazil, this one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
A week later, I had to fight in Japan. And a week later, I had to fight in, so actually it was was a total of 15 days. I fought in 3 different countries: Brazil, Japan, and then Abu Dhabi, the Emirates, you know?
Wow.
And then I came back, I could cover everything, take care of everything, and got my freedom. And that's when I went to open the school at 37th Street above the Methadone Clinic that you knew.
Wow.
And when I took this fight, I was going through a very hard time here. I took the fight, I come down there, and when I get there, the person who was organizing the fight, I told him, if you're going to hire security, it has to be this company that belongs to a friend of mine, because they will be the only ones who can take care of this. If he want to save some money, he hire a different company. Right before the event begins, 200 people invaded the arena, and they surrounded the ring. And they are all luta livre guys from the ghettos, from the favelas, you know, and they have weapons. It was something tense. So the promoter say, Renzo, I cannot. And the guys from the security now, once that happened, they almost fainting. I don't know what to do. How can I do this? So I'm in the locker room, stretching, and the fighting is beginning. And then the guy goes, Renzo, we are afraid. We are afraid for your health, because you may go in there, they may kill you, they may lynch you, they may, I will pay you full and you don't need to fight. Cancel this last fight. I start laughing and I say, I came here to fight. I say, just put me and him in there and lock that cage and let me deal with the rest. And it was a very intense fight, because every time my back would touch the fence, they would kick me in the head, or they would kick my hands. You know, and I remember as I'm fighting, I look at them and I say, I'm sorry, but you hit softer than my mom. My mom has heavier hands than you. And I keep going. At one point, I had my back on it. Someone cut me with a knife. Thank God it wasn't a stab. They just sliced. It was a big cut in my shoulder.
So you're in the cage in a no rules fight, and somebody outside the cage is slashing you with a knife.
That is like 200 people around. The crowd could not even see inside the cage. So every time I get near the cage, I'll get hit by one of them. And everything's going, I don't care, and I'm laughing, and the fight is going.
And this is
this guy who keeps hitting me. He keeps falling and hitting me every time he has a chance. I was keeping an eye on him. At one point, the ref pulled us apart. As we go apart, he puts the head here and starts cursing at me right over my shoulder. So I'm looking at my opponent across the ring. I walk back a couple steps and I clock him right in the nose, you know, like boom, I hit him. He falls, my brother higher jumps on him and beats the crap out of him there. And then the whole fight begins. It was like 400 people fighting at the same time. You know, at that moment, the thing was so tense. There was people shooting, bullets flying everywhere. The lights fell. Almost, I started feeling a heat that I couldn't believe. When I looked, the lights were very close to us. Something happened outside that the lights end up dropping. And I remember that was so hot and my father said, let's get out of here. It was my father inside and my friend Sergio Ignacio. So let's get out of here. We're going to carry out. I said, no. We only leave after he left. If he's still in here, we keep going with the fight until it's over, until someone wins. And then my opponent left. He took off. You know, he had a broken foot, I believe. He threw a kick and landed wrong in my leg and broke his foot. So they carry him out. Once he left, then I walk out. And it was people shooting, people fighting everywhere. They broke the whole arena. It was an intense and beautiful day. I miss those days a lot. You know, I felt like I was in London with the hooligans.
So you love that chaos. That's proper karaoke chaos.
I felt alive.
And so
you're talking about getting shot. I get shot at many times. But thank God they didn't have good aim. They always missing. There was one shot that went through my pants, the bottom of my pants, very close to my family jewels, and it hit my friend right behind me on the leg, on his chin, and broke his chin. You know, and I remember saying, how? I say, it went through me and hit my friend behind, because it was so close that the guy shot me. I was very lucky many times, until one day in a fight inside a club, you know, one guy actually threw a shot and hit me on the leg. It broke my femur. you know, and I was jumping and I was able to get inside the woman's bathroom. And when I get inside the women's bathroom, there was like 30 women in there. I look at them and I say, ladies, there's a crazy guy shooting everybody. And the door has no lock. So I say, if he gets in here, we all dead. So hold the door. So it was 30 women holding the door. Nobody, when the police arrived, they couldn't open the door. That kept me alive.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that
I drove my mom and my dad crazy, but they were fine.
And that fight that you were having in that cage was no time limit, no rules, no gloves?
It was actually 15 minutes rounds. I think it was 3 rounds of 15 minutes, 45 minutes.
All right, 45.
So I think we did 1 round, and on the beginning of the second, that's when the problem began.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
We did 1 round, and then the beginning of the second, that's when the problem
And that style of fighting was something that had been happening in Brazil or Rio de Janeiro for tens and tens of years. I mean, America hadn't seen that, but you guys, that happened regularly. I mean, your grandfathers and your uncles would do these no time limit fights, and
yes,
that was standard.
And I was doing that. We always set up. We had a problem on the beach. We don't fight in public. Let's go to the house. Let's go to the academy. And then we fought at the academy. That's how all the problems were solved. And that's how the first Gracie in Action VHSs were made. It was when we got access to a camera, we start filming one and we start filming some of the fights. And that's what the product that you have on the Gracie in Action tape.
And that's where the Gracies they'd say, you want to fight? No problem. Come to our academy, but we're going to film it. That's what you would do.
Yes. And whoever wins has the copyrights of the tape. That's the agreement.
Okay. All right.
That's how it works. I tried to do one now. I went to Brazil to fight Waleed on August 8th.
Right.
And I couldn't believe he deprived me of this new memory that I could carry in my soul until my grave. He didn't show up. He chickened out. I couldn't believe.
I mean, so this is Waleed Ismail. He's kind of a legend in Brazil, right? For fighting?
The ugliest legend. So it would be the ugliest legend fighting the handsome one. He was recently in the corner of Borrachinha against Adesanya in the UFC.
Okay.
On that fight, because he's the manager of.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So Adesanya say, who the hell is that gremlin sitting next to There's a gremlin running his mouth next to Borrachinha.
So you had a fight scheduled this year. You're 53, is that right?
August 8th. Yeah, 53. Yeah.
And Waleed didn't show up.
He didn't show up.
That doesn't sound like him. What was his excuse?
It sounds like him. People don't realize. You see, you have to understand one thing. When the dog barks too much, he doesn't bite. You know? So it doesn't sound like him because he looks brave. But when the time comes, he made an excuse. In reality, I put him in contact because he said he want to fight in an event. I put him in contact with one from Asia.
Yeah.
So one wants to put up the fight. They start booking everything, setting up everything. Next thing you see, he announces the fight in Rio a week before the fight that we are doing in Manila at one. And Chatri, the president and the CEO of one, was like, what is this? He was talking to me to set up the fight here. Now he's saying the fight is in Brazil, on a jungle fight, his event. And that's how he found a way to pull out. But it's okay. I made one promise, and it doesn't matter if we are in the Vatican, because old school, you know, I don't have still one gray hair, but I'm 53 and I'm part of the old school. Whatever I see him, I'll beat him up. We're going to get in a fight, whatever we are, you know? And then after we can have an acai juice, you can enjoy. But all the offenses that he did, he's going to have to pay for it.
So next time you see him, it's on.
It doesn't matter where.
I heard
Vatican.
There was an interview you did back in the day, maybe it was in that movie Choke or around that time, where you said, you know, this whole thing of scheduling a fight was new for you because when you were in Rio, the fight could happen at any time. And it's different than having a fight that's coming up at a certain time. And a lot of fighters aren't used to that.
Yeah, and not only this, it's very easy to get in a fight when you are emotional. You get angry, you go in a fight. But when you book, that's the problem with Waleed. He cannot. He books, he start getting afraid now. From the day of, he gets nervous, he gets anxious. I don't. My last fight at 51 years old, I was actually sleeping. I was out in the locker room. And my brother comes to wake me up. I say, it's time. He goes, no, there's half an hour. I say, what's wrong with you? Finally, I'm taking a nap. You wake me up. You need to warm up. You need to, I say, warm up. I cross half of the globe. I'm warm for a month. Just call me when it's time to walk out. That's it. I will jog to my walk-in, and then I'll be fine. And that's exactly what I have, a picture of me sleeping and me being raised in victory. And both pictures is half an hour, 40 minutes difference between both pictures, you know, the time between both pictures.
I mean, Renzo, were you ever scared to fight, or was this your personality?
No, it's a funny thing. It's like we always say, if you're afraid to use the restroom, you shouldn't like Italian food. You shouldn't eat Italian food. So the reality, I trained my whole life. Everything that I did, and I become a teacher, that I pass this knowledge and this confidence. So if I was afraid, I'll be betraying the most sacred thing I have, that I've been giving to my students, to the people around me. I can fight anytime, any day, anywhere, in any situation. You know, I fought inside the water many times when I was surfing, and I had an arm lock from the guard inside the water that never failed. Never failed. I could get the guy in an arm lock, and I make him tap inside the water every time. And I never broke an arm. Even though they gave me reason to do it, I will make them give up and lock. If we keep fighting, the next time I'm going to get it again, and I'll break it. And they would agree, they let it go.
In the water.
Skinny, in the water.
So you're holding your breath. You're underwater, holding your breath, putting your...
I was so, because it was so easy. There was no footing.
Okay.
I couldn't defend. So the moment that I grab the head, I spin, I get the arm. There's no defense. So I would keep it, and then I bring my head out just enough, and we both were like, and his eyes screaming, and I say, I'm going to break it next time. Because I was so skinny, they wouldn't believe. They would come to surf. They're good athletes, and they look at skinny little guy. I was probably at 16, 17. I was like 100 pounds, 105, you know? So they look at me like, what are you talking about? I say, look, there's no surfing here. You're not behaving. You light a joint before you're walking in here. You cannot surf here today. Out. You know, there's kids, our family are on the beach, and you want to smoke your dope? And you have to understand, we had one guy in our team that smoked joints, smoked marijuana. And we never saw him smoking, and he never smoked in front of the kids. The other day, I'm walking here in New York, there's a guy, the guy lights a bong in the middle of the street. Now it's, you know? I'm passing by, I kick him right away. I couldn't help. I say, when there's people passing by, don't do this. And he apologized. Because you don't understand. You start allowing this to happen. Next thing you see, there's a rapist there. There's a person who's going to steal. And he's not going to steal from you. He's going to steal from your grandmother. He's going to steal from your niece. He's going to steal from your nephews, from the children, the old people, your grandfather. You know, and you let that escalate. Look what happened in New York now.
Yeah.
It was insane. You know, you can't let that happen.
And that's a Gracie family thing, right? I mean, the Gracie family was always no drugs. You know, the family is important. The diet. I mean, it was a
everything was like I couldn't eat sugar. There was a birthday party. We had over 50 kids. Everything going. The cake is sitting there. Suddenly get distracted. The cake disappeared. Where's the cake? Where's the cake? We'll go find in the garbage. My grandfather passed by. You not poison the kids. The cake was gone. You know? Well, how are we going to sing happy birthday? Put a watermelon, cut in half, put the watermelon there. And that's how we were raised, like, because I like sweets so much. And I would never get money for sweets. I work. I begin at 8 or 9, I was shining shoes. I shine shoes, make the money so I could buy my sweets, you know? And then later, 11, 12, I collect tennis balls in a court. I would collect tennis balls so people could play in a club, you know, and so I could make money to give my mother a gift and to buy the sweets that I love, the ice cream, the sweets that I love so much.
All right, so let's talk about Japan and the Pride Fighting Champions. I went twice to Japan to watch the Pride Fighting Championships. I think I went for the Chuck Liddell Rampage fight, and that's where
it was a beautiful one. I was there.
You were there. Okay, I was there. I flew over there. I mean, nobody was speaking English. Like, I only knew about it because I was getting the videotapes. I mean, and then I went back again when Murilo Bustamante fought Dan Henderson on a Bushido card. But you went over there early. You had a, first of all, what was it like fighting in Japan? For people that don't know, Pride was massive then. It was bigger than the UFC. It was better than the UFC. Let's be honest. The production values were crazy.
10 times better.
100,000 fans, great fighters, Mirko Krokop, Fedor, Sakuraba, the Gracies were in there, Rampage. I mean, amazing, those fights. Classics.
Unbelievable.
Great Brazilians.
I was in Japan 52 times.
52 times?
Yeah, 52 times, yeah. And every single time was an unbelievable experience. First, because I was educated. I was educated by my family with the concept of the beauty and the strength of the Japanese people, and my dream was always to one day fight there, to bring back the amazing art that they brought to us in Brazil.
Right.
And my family was able to adapt it, improve, and make it so efficient. So even Japan had forgotten a little bit of their art that they taught us, and my family gave continuity, and we were able to bring it back and to have the opportunity to do that. The first event I did there that I fought was Pride 1, and it was 75,000 people in the arena, 72,000 people in the arena. Royce fought on the Tokyo Stadium, which is an open stadium for baseball, 110,000 people. So if a show there had less than 35, 40,000, it was considered a failure, Every show was a pack house. Every end of the year, they had a show. And it was amazing, the quality of fighters that they brought. They brought the guys from Holland, the guys from K1 back then, the world champions in striking, giants. They had people there. Those the best fights I have ever seen in my life. They had Vanderlei Silva, Vitor Belfort, Sakuraba. It was unbelievable. And every time I was there, I made friends. For you to have an idea, recently I went there to promote an event that they were having. They were having the one event in Japan. And I went there to help promote the event. And when it was my time to leave the hotel, I come down with my luggage. As I get to my driver, there's a line of Japanese people, like at least 20 people standing there. And then I look, when I get outside, they all bow their heads and half of them are crying when I'm leaving, like I couldn't believe.
Wow.
No, it was one of the best sights I have ever had in my life. I had experience there that I cannot even explain how well organized they are. And they became so popular. For you to have an idea, before I get my American citizenship, I had the Brazilian passport. So I was running from one side to the other. I had the stamp, the visa, and I believe the visa would last 2 or 3 weeks for Brazilians back then. If I recorded right, if I remember right. So I go there, I bring the fighters there, then I have to come to United States to do something else, and and in my head, I thought the visa was still valid. So I go to the airport. I know everybody at the airport. They don't check to see the date of expiring my visa. They board me on the plane. I get there. When I get there, the officer look and say, "Your visa is expired, sir." I say, "Impossible. I just got it. It's up to date." He goes, "No, it's not. It's expired." So he showed me it was expired by 2 days, 1 or 2 days. I go, I can't believe I'm going to have to jump in the plane now, go to the consulate. It takes 2 days for a Brazilian to get the visa back. And to come back, I'm going to make it back here, I'm going to miss the fight by 12 hours. If I do everything perfect, I'm still going to be late 12 hours and I have to be the corner. It was my brother fighting. And I said, I can't believe it. I'm already picturing the whole situation that I will have to go through. The officer left, say 1 second, he left, he went inside. Comes back like 5 minutes later, say, Mr. Gracie, I spoke to my manager and he just asked me to tell you that we admire a lot of your work. We are very proud for what you do for Japan. And you are an exception. You are welcome here. You are welcome here with a visa or without a visa. Welcome to Japan. Boom, and he stamped my passport. So I have this passport, save it here, with the authorization to walk in with the expired visa. I still have the passport.
What's your favorite memory of fighting in Japan? I'm probably going to ask you about Sakuraba at some point because that's an epic fight that people remember. You know, it went 45 minutes and you broke your arm and you didn't tap out. I mean, can you tell us about that fight and that whole situation? Because he was being called the Gracie killer, and you were the third Gracie to fight him, or the second Gracie?
The third. What happened was I was supposed to fight him right on Pride 8, 2 events prior, when I fought Otsuka. I was in the best shape of my life. I was getting ready for him. And then they changed. They put Royler in and they took me out. So I fought Otsuka, who back then had just beat Marcos Ruas in a fight.
Okay.
And I fought him. I beat Otsuka very fairly and square. And then Royler lost to Sakuraba on that fight in a bad call. He got him. Royler is extremely flexible. Sakuraba got him in a Kimura, but he couldn't go any further. And Royler was fine, and they stopped the fight. They gave the victory to, and there was a weight difference of around 25 kilos.
Yeah, let's talk about the weight difference, first of all, because Royler's not big. You're not big, Renzo. Come on.
Royler is 63 kilos.
63 kilos.
I was huge. I was 70 kilos.
I don't even know. I mean, if you fought in the UFC back then, you would have fought at 145, right? I mean,
145, yeah. That was my weight, 145, yeah.
It's Sakuraba.
It's a funny thing because people go, Renzo, when they see us, because they see us on TV, but when they see us next to each other, how come you're fighting these guys? And I was fighting them bare knuckle back then. Like Oleg was 230 pounds. I was probably 155. And I was trying to gain weight. And I knocked him out in a minute, you know? Same thing with Maurice Smith. After I finished, I tried to lift Maurice Smith. I couldn't. He was too heavy.
And Sakuraba's pretty big, right? Sakuraba's...
Yeah, Sakuraba was easy, like 215, you know? Wow. 220 at times, yeah.
Right, a very accomplished Japanese fighter and the hometown...
Unbelievable fighter, you know? Yeah. And it was my dream fight. I want to really fight with him, and I did it. And that was one of the biggest lessons I ever had, because my whole life I believed that my mind was stronger than my body. Then when time comes, I wouldn't quit. You know, but I never had the chance to prove that, because nobody could ever get me in no submission in my whole career, my amateur sports. Boy, there's a friend of mine calling here without stopping.
Okay, gotcha. So you were saying your whole career, no one ever was able to make you tap or get you into submission?
Never. I was never submitted. You know, I was always, my defense was always very good. So even in the amateur part on the gear competitions, then they never get not even close. Nobody ever got even close. So I never knew if what I believed would work. And then Sakuraba gave me the amazing opportunity to see that it was true, that my mind was actually stronger than my body. And I remember, and I learned a lot with that fight, because in my head, I already won. I completely dominated him. He couldn't find no way. And then finally I swept him, and I had his back. And that's when he locked. And because of the glove, I couldn't pull my hand out. Suddenly he stood up, spun, and he broke my elbow. My elbow came out. And I remember when we landed, he started screaming in Japanese to the ref. His arm is broken. And the ref comes, and as they come, and I look, I see it's completely out. And then I said, no, don't worry. This happens all the time. Keep going. Keep going. It was 15 seconds to finish the round. And in my head, I said, I'm going to put it back, and I will fight the last round with him, and I'm going to finish this and show who's the champion. But they stopped the fight. They didn't let that happen. You know, they made it stop. You know, and I remember my brother walked in. I said, put it back. Just grab this one, pull it. And he put it back, and I was smiling the whole time. And it was funny because many people come to me and they say, it wasn't hurting. You were smiling the whole time. And then I say, nothing that happened to me never hurt so much in my life. I could give him the victory because he deserved it. But I could never give him to see pain in my face. That gift he will never have on this lifetime, you know? And that to me was an unbelievable moment for my life. You know, it changed. It made me see many different things in a different way.
Because many people say they won't tap, but we don't know if you never know if you won't tap until the moment where you either, overcome the pain or not. And you got to prove to yourself that day that you didn't tap. And you did put a smile and you were acting. I remember you I watched that video so many times, Renzo, and you're like, it's fine. And your arm's broken.
Completely out. And this happens all the time, I said to him. Don't worry, keep going. Finish the fight. Let's finish the fight. And then the ref tell him, let's keep it. No, it's broken. Sakuraba tells him. Sakuraba was an unbelievable, smart man. I always say, like, that guy, I believe, was half Brazilian because he had like a knowledge and a behave inside the ring that was beyond his years, especially coming from the school that he came. They didn't have that much experience. He was much ahead of his time. He beat amazing fighters in his career,
Yeah. What are your other memories from Pride?
There was too many. There was some that the guys got in a fight in the locker room. There was, I forgot his name. It was a black guy from the south of United States, Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse was fighting there.
Yeah.
And then he turned it on the stereo very loud. And we share a locker room. It was a big locker room divided by curtains, And he puts the stereo like a rap song very loud. And then the people from the Vanderlei Silva and those guys from Shootbox, they complain. They ask the guy to put the stereo down. So one of the coaches go there, ask him to put the stereo down. The guy answers, nah, gonna be like, they start arguing. And I'm sitting there watching. Suddenly they got in a fight. The coach, who's a jiu-jitsu guy, got in a fight with Crazy Horse. So they are going back and forward. Suddenly the Brazilian guy locks him in a triangle. And Vanderlei is telling his coach, because that was their jiu-jitsu coach, okay, squeeze it, put him to sleep, do that. And Crazy Horse is seeing this whole thing going. Then he passes out. And then the fight is over. They separate. This part they have filmed. It's on YouTube. If you look on YouTube, you're going to find it until they put Crazy Horse to sleep. And it's a fair fight between both of them at the locker room. Next thing you see, Crazy Horse disappear. Gone. And we're in the locker room. Vanderlei is getting ready to walk out. The whole crew is together, one behind the other. As they leaving the locker room, Crazy Horse jumps from behind a curtain, and he could hit hard. He threw a bomb. He sucker punched Vanderlei Silva. Vanderlei was out.
Really?
You have to understand, he's knocked out at the moment that he's walking, that he's doing his walking out to his fight. They're waiting for him. They call his name. He's out. So they go the whole mess again, and they pull them apart. They wake up Vanderlei. He wakes up, get up, drink some water, threw some water himself, walk in the ring, wins his match. Knocks his opponent out.
Oh, my gosh.
It was unbelievable. What amazing experiences we had there.
Those were great days. Those were great days.
And the organization that they had, how they treat you, they make you feel like a star. I remember that there was one year that the World Cup was there. And all the film crew from the Global TV station in Brazil, I knew them. I knew them very well. The head of the film crew was a very good friend of mine from Brazil. So he goes, Renzo, can we come and watch the fight? I went. I got passes for all of them. They came to watch. When they finished watching the event, they came to me and say, Renzo, we are in awe. I say, what? The World Cup cannot compare to this event. The organization, they had access to everything, they could see everything. We never seen something so well organized. It's insane. We can't believe this. We never seen that. People should watch this and learn, And it's amazing. It's a funny thing because the one fighting championship belongs to one student of mine, Shatri. Shatri is a genius, an amazing soul, loves fighting, admire everything that the martial art was brought to him. He's a guy that graduated Harvard, and then he came to train with us after. And when he moved back, he opened the Renzo Gracie Academy there. They ended up calling Evolve. And from that, I gave him the idea to create the one. I say, begin with a small fighting company. I remember I went there on the first event, was on a basketball court. like 100 people watching, you know, only. And I was recently there doing an apprentice show with me and George St. Pierre. And we came to the new office. It's the whole floor of one of the best buildings in Singapore. You know, it's 100 people working at the office. And he goes, Renzo, take a look here. And then he went and showed me the picture of the first office, the office that I went. Geese hanging, boxes on the floor. It was probably half of the office that I'm in right now here in my house, you know. And he showed me, but look, I never forgot where I came from. I said, that's the secret. That's the secret. And with that, I always passing to him and I was sharing him how Pride was and what was done, how they treated it. And that's what he's doing. And if you have a chance to one day see Pride back, it's going to be through one.
Right.
They are doing an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
The fight that I did 2 years ago against Yuki Kondo, who, by the way, is 10 years younger than me.
Oh.
They asked if I want a guy my age. I told them, I'm sorry, but I don't hit old people. This is not a geriatric encounter. This is, you can have only one crazy old man. The other one has to be a younger guy. So I told him, I said, I come back, but I need a champion this time. I need a guy on his prime. I don't want to measure myself against an average Joe, you know. I wanted someone that my grandkids will be proud I fought it, you know, even if I got my butt kicked, you know. So if we one day will have an opportunity to see Pride back, it will be through one. And they are doing an amazing job, yeah.
Yeah, no, they are. Tell me about the UFC. Tell me about your memories from that and then how you've watched it evolve from something that, you know, Horian started to bought by Dana White to then invested in by friends you knew in Abu Dhabi to now they're doing Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. I know you have a lot of ties there, but what are your early...
I could write 10 books about that subject easy.
I bet.
Things that people would never dream that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what?
You know, that was too many. That was like when my friends actually invested, they bought 10% of the UFC, they didn't want to invest. They didn't trust will be run properly back then. And I convinced him, I said, understand one thing, this is for you, it's just an extra building that you don't build. I say, buy this, because in the worst case, this is our sport. In the worst case, tomorrow, you acquire the whole thing and I will run it for you. I say, don't worry about it, because it can fail. There's no other sports with the intensity and the complexity that these sports brings to the screen, you know, and this is a product that we will always sell.
Right, and this is about 10 years ago when investors from Abu Dhabi bought, I think, 10% of the UFC. Is that about right?
Yes,
okay.
That was exactly 10 years ago.
And so they made great returns on their money, I'm sure.
Yes, after only when they sold it.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you why. Through that time, he didn't make no income back throughout that time. I think it was 5 years. It took 5 years with them.
Yeah.
And the UFC grew, the whole thing going, but he made no return at all on that period. Until one day I go out of my academy to some guys from the financial market invite me to have a beer. So I went there with them in a French restaurant to have a beer with them. There was like 15 guys there. And when I get there, they drink pretty much already. And I sit down with them and they had friends that I never met, guys from outside. So one guy goes, the Fertitas and Dana White are going to Saudi Arabia next week to buy back a piece of the UFC that a Saudi sheikh bought it. I say, excuse me? Yeah, we lend them the money. They authorized to pay from 250 to 270 on this, on acquiring back the UFC, the share of the UFC, because they are selling to BlackRock or Blackstone, I can't remember, right, for $5.2 billion. So I say, really, but which Saudi prince has 10%? I don't know, someone from Saudi Arabia, because in America, if you're from Middle East, you're from Saudi Arabia.
Right.
You know? Immediately I grabbed my phone, I sent him a message. I say, I heard the Fertitas and Dan are coming there next week. And then he sends me back immediately a message, because over here was like midnight, over there was like 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, yes, they're coming. Do you want to come? I send you a ticket tomorrow. I said, no. They're coming to buy you out from the UFC, and they authorized to offer you from 250 to 270 million, because they have a buyer for 5.2 billion. And I put it back. I don't know if it's BlackRock or Blackstone.
Yeah.
And I go, when they need it, you save them. You kept the boat afloat and made it go forward with great winds on their sail. Now they cannot cut you short. And you didn't get nothing on these 5 years. So it's time now for you to just say one thing. I'm with you guys. When you guys leave, I leave. If you guys don't leave, I stay. He didn't answer. He didn't send a message back, right? So suddenly the UFC sold to IMG, I think like a month later or 2 months later, it sold to IMG.
Yeah.
And then I go to Abu Dhabi, I'm there, and then he comes next to me, he goes, we sold the UFC. I go 250 or 270. He goes 420. Because he was sold by 4.2 billion.
Yeah.
You know? And then he goes 420. I go, yes. Payback is bad for them. And he goes, you were in the wrong job. I go, wrong job? The only thing that I love is Jiu-Jitsu. All that I want to do is Jiu-Jitsu, nothing else. He goes, you should work with the information. Because every time you bring me information, and it's by chance, I believe, because he's a guy who always did everything right. You know, it's like people only see him for the money or the fortune. They only mention that. And in reality, the thing of less value he has is a lot of money. You know, if you have a chance one day to meet him and to know him and to see how he drives that country to make good to other countries, to other people, how he helps people, his money is nothing. It's just a little tool that complements, the big heart that he has. And what they were trying to do with him wasn't fair. And by chance, what's the odds? I go have a beer at midnight. And the guy who was there taking care of this is sitting there, you know?
So let
it leak the information.
So that tech...
Why?
What?
So why it wasn't sold? That's why I'm telling you that Sheikh Tarnoum is an amazing soul. You know why he didn't make 520?
Why?
Because you were going to be sold for 5.2.
Yeah.
It was because he knew the guy who was buying. So he called him and say, these numbers are not right. It's not worth that much. You know? So he was making 100 million more if he let that go.
Right.
And he didn't. He didn't because he knew the guy. So I learned later that there was a guy next to the president of BlackRock or Blackstone, next to him, because they were in a boat in Ibiza. And when the guy answered the phone and how the conversation went, it was pretty nasty, but I can't repeat it here. But the guy was extremely angry because he got a call from Sheikh Tarnoum before.
And so tell me about your relationship with Sheikh. How did you meet him and how did that happen? And, Abu Dhabi fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu and you've known him for a long time. And tell me about that.
He came to meet me. His father was doing a treatment. I think, I don't know if it was Cleveland or somewhere in 1996. That was the first year I was here. And then he came to the academy to train with me for one day. And then when he got there, he told me he was the student of Nelson Montero, a guy that grew up with me. So I said, oh, you're Nelson. So here you don't pay. You're my guest. Please, this is your house. But I need a gift. It's a gift for you. And grab whatever water, Gatorade you want. And he was very shy, very quiet. And he had a few guys with him. He had a British secretary. Guy, this is the guy who organized the ADCCs. It's Guy Neves. He's an English guy. Right. And the English guy was much more outgoing, more confident than him. He was quiet on his corner. But when he began training Jiu-Jitsu, I said, this guy is very talented. His guard was unbelievable. And he was doing a training session with Rico Ciparelli. That was one of the best wrestlers ever in America, saved by Dan Gable. So Rico's trying to pass his guard, cannot pass his guard. The training is getting intense. Suddenly, he hits him with an elbow, blood everywhere. I got a towel, I put it. He has his back on the thing. I say, buddy, are you okay? He's holding the towel on his nose. He pulls down. He goes, we're still bleeding. He goes, He couldn't pass my guard. I go, God, another crazy one like us. Like this one belongs to the tribe. And we enjoy. We stay there. We finish the training. And then in the end, he goes, would you like to have lunch with me tomorrow, me and the guys? I say, yes, I'd love to. And then he gave me the address. I say, I'll meet you there at noon. I get there at noon. I walk in. I say, this hotel, it's pretty nice. But it must suck because there's nobody in it. Completely empty, And we go to the restaurant, nobody on the restaurant. So we start eating, we joking, we laugh, telling stories. Next thing I see, I push the tables to the corner. I said, there's nobody here, So I push the tables. We are training on the floor, me and him. We see moves. We're talking about arm locks and things like that. And in the end, he sat down and I say, look, man, what time does your plane leave? He goes, 5 o'clock. I say, which airport? He goes, it's in Newark Airport in Jersey. I say, okay, you're going to have to leave early because the traffic leaving at that time is very bad. And we keep going. I said, buddy, you got to leave. Are your luggage ready? Let's go there and pick it up. He goes, yeah, don't worry. We keep going. I say, my friend, look, let me explain to you. You just missed your flight. Extend the stay here for one more day. Rebook your tickets after. Let's go train now at the academy. And then he goes, Renzo, the Boeing is mine. I don't believe they go in anywhere without me inside. I go, what? And that's what he told me. Then he goes, I got a gift for you. I want to thank you for the amazing time you gave us here. So he gave me a Rolex, my first Rolex, my first watch. He gave me as a gift.
Nice.
An amazing soul. And I would stay laughing and joke for more. And then I went to teach. And then he goes, I would like you to bring you to my country. I want you to show you the beauty of my country, how my country is. I want you to interact with us there. I want you to see my country. So like a month later, I went to meet him there. And then I met his brothers. And then I began teaching him there. Nelson, my dear friend, moved there. And he was there teaching him for like 3 or 4 years. And then our friendship began, and it was amazing, and I became like part of the family. I stay on their house, and and I remember back then it was like a village. It was a small place like Dubai. There was nothing in Dubai. I remember to stay at Jumeirah Beach Hotel. It cost like $89, $90 a day. Today you can get a room for less than $1,000, And when you can get a room, because there's no vacancy, it's always packed, and Dubai became what it became, And I remember I saw growing and I saw everything changing. And one of my last trips there, I was able to I got a phone call from him saying, Renzo, I need to meet your friend. I say, which one of them? I have too many. He goes, the Brazilian president. I need to send a crew there and sit down, and we're going to start business between both countries. And I said, no problem. It was morning here. I say, let me wake up. I'll get a ticket and tomorrow I'll be in Brazil. Or I'll fly overnight. He goes, really, overnight? Yeah. I jumped in a plane. I went there, went straight to the Brazilian White House, knocked at the door. And I told the security, is the president at home? The guy looked at me like, yeah. I say, could you please tell him Renzo is here? And the guy goes, do you have an appointment, sir? I say, I'm sorry, I don't, but just tell him that I'm here to see him. And then he goes, are you crazy? I say, tell him, then you find out. Tell that I'm here. And the guy goes, I'm sorry, sir, but I won't do it. And I say, look, I already have your name memorized. And I'll write a book about this, and I'll tell the story. And I'm going to say that he was an FBI officer, like a federal police officer. I said, I'm going to say that you delay the good things that we can bring to Brazil because you're too stupid to see, to open your eyes for different things. Get in there and tell him that I'm here.
You never met the president before? You never met him?
Yeah, I met him a couple of times.
Okay, right.
Yeah, before. I helped his campaign a little bit, But I met him twice, and unfortunately for him, one time that I met him was during a Gracie Pro competition. It was a big Jiu-Jitsu competition that my niece Kira was doing. And he walked with me everywhere. We walked together. And then he goes, it's the first time in my life that I go to a place where people actually want to talk more to someone else than say hi to me. And I go, yeah, this is because there's Jiu-Jitsu place. That's why I said to him. If it was anybody else, it's you. Don't worry about that. So, and that was the last time I saw him, I was doing a jiu-jitsu competition. So he became the president. I didn't speak to him. I didn't see him anymore. I actually did an audio saying why he should be the president. The audio went viral, was everywhere. Like 3 months ago, I received it again over the internet. It was me talking to my nephew and explaining to him why he should be the president. Right. And that thing went viral, and everybody posted, everybody sent it over. It was insane. And the guy went in, came back with my credentials, put it in my neck, follow me, please. And then I follow him. When I get in there, I see the president, I go say thank you to the officer. I say, the guy was so angry, he turned around and left, he not even saying bye to me. And then I talked to the president, I explained to him the idea. The next day he invited me for breakfast with him, and I could bring whoever I wanted, and I remember I brought the lower rank employee from the UAE embassy. But since he was the guy who treated me the nicest, I brought like a secretary. I brought him like the ambassador of UAE was so angry. Why wasn't her that came? I say you should. I'm thinking you should have learned to smile more, be more friendly. That would open doors for you. And that happened with the lower rank employee. So he joined the breakfast with us. We set up everything. In 20 days, they had a meeting. They were going to meet. They would fly from Abu Dhabi, all the ministers and all the investors and everything. They sat down. They had the first meeting. They booked to sign the deal and to sign the agreement between both countries. The total time was 4 months from the moment that I got a call to the moment that was signed. And what people don't know, the night before the deal was signed, I was sitting in a restaurant with the Emiratis, helping to design, to draw the deal that was going to be signed the next day. Today, between both countries, there is no more visa. The visa was removed.
Nice.
A Brazilian can fly to the Emirates, open a company, issue himself a working visa, and start running his business from there. This is unheard of a country of first world to give the opportunity to a third world country. They invest $40 billion. It was $25 billion United Arab Emirates and $15 billion Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
Because they are best friends, Sheikh Tahnoun and the king of Saudi Arabia. And that was a unique opportunity to invest, help grow Brazil, and they will get their returns for sure, guarantee. I was there actually this week. I don't know if I told you, I was there this whole week I slept average of 2 hours a night, working, and the Sheikh Tahnoun not even knows, but I was there helping his company to get better. I was sitting down with the governor, with everybody, and tuning up everything for them to grow, And in the end, the guy who's running the company there goes, "Can I give you a job? Can I keep you here?" I say, "My brother, I'm in your heart. I'll be here the whole time. But I'm a real Brazilian. You're talking about giving me a job, I start itching. It gives me allergies."
And you did this.
Whatever you need, you call me at any time, day or night. And he already called me yesterday at midnight. He called me here, for me to solve another problem.
And you did this all out of loyalty to your friend in the Emirates.
Brother, if you don't do it for your friends, to who you're gonna do it? I'm not only doing for the Emirates, I'm doing for the Brazilian. You know what the Sheikh Tahnoun told me once? When he called me and asked me that, he goes, "It's time that Brazil gets better. It's time that we help Brazil." And those words made me, I would knock the door down of the president if the guy didn't let me in that day.
Wow.
That's the reality. So they want to make, and they are making a huge difference. The president of Mubadala in Brazil right now, his name is Hamad, he has the same mentality, the same view. He goes, this country has to be like New York, has to be like United States. This country has everything to be great. You eat a fruit and you spit the seed, it will grow on the floor. There's all the weathers. You have the perfect ground for everything. How come we are still being holding back by a bunch of hypocrites, politicians who only look about leaning their own pockets instead of doing what is right, And then suddenly you have a Bolsonaro who actually, believe it, I sat with him for 2 hours doing a live, and I could see all the problems written in front of him. And I was right next to him. I read everything. And I see what he has to put up with to make that country improve. It's like the whole corruption legion against him not to let it happen. When I met him here in Miami, I walk into his room, was a big suite, and I walk in and he's on the phone talking to someone screaming, you know? So I come in with his son. His ministers are sitting down. I come in and then suddenly he hang up the phone and he keeps staring at the floor. His son goes, "Dad, look, Renzo is here. Say hi." You know, and he just raised the head. And I go, "Leave your father alone. Their head is burning right now." And I know how probably it is. And then he goes, "Renzo, please sit here." I go sit next to him. He looks at me, puts the hand on my shoulder. He begins, tears start going down. And he goes, "You know what it is, Renzo, to try to do the right thing. And they don't let you. Those cowards won't let you do it." And that's what he's putting up with. The impression that I have is that he aged 10 years in 1 year. Yeah. You know, last time I was with him, he looks tired.
You've been super supportive of him. And in true Renzo Gracie style, you have pulled no punches when it comes to people who say bad things about Brazil or the president or the Amazon forest. You're calling out the French president. You're calling out everybody. You're old school, right? You're not politically correct.
I don't wanna. I have no ambitions to become a politician. I tell you what my heart tells you. I have no delay between what comes from my heart to goes out in my mouth. So it's like I got called Nazi, I got called racist, and I'm 18% black. I just found out because my daughter did she did a DNA test to see.
Okay.
She's even more. She goes, "Dad, I'm even prouder of you." I say, "Why?" "Because you have no athletic abilities and you became the champion that you are. That shows your strength." And she did on my grandson, and he's an amazing athlete. He goes, "He's like Olympic material, but you were not. You were nothing. You were not supposed to be an athlete." I say, "I know. I couldn't kick a ball half a field. My whole life, I was the weakest one in the family. My brothers and my cousins used to get me to warm up. Let's warm up. Let me warm up with Renzo." Then they go, someone serious will come, they'll go train for real. So I was the warm-up. And I remember thinking, one day I'm going to walk in, they're going to look away. They're going to call somebody else quick. And that happened too, in the end.
And why were people hating on you? Because of the comments you made? Because you said they were calling you Nazi and racist and all this stuff. Where'd that come from?
One day I made a quote, my loyalty, my honor is my loyalty. I didn't know this was a Himmler quote. That was in 2012.
Okay, like a tweet or something.
Yeah, it was a tweet.
Right.
I'm not quoting a Nazi. You have to understand one thing. My godparents, they were Jews. My sister is married to a Jew. My nephew, Naaman, is a Jew. You go at my door here, you're going to see the Jewish thing that you touch it, and that was put here. The day that I bought this house, my sister brought this, and I installed it right at my door, like I'm Jewish. I have a school in Israel. I have unbelievable souls that I teach and train there, you know? And in my head, I was raised in a way of Jiu-Jitsu. We have no religions. You believe in your God, I believe in mine, but there's one God for all of us. And even when you don't believe in God, even when you don't believe at all, you always will know what you are doing, it's right or wrong. You always will know when you're doing something that this is not right. Yeah. Or this is right. And even on that, I tell you, that's God. So if you don't respect no other God, respect that one and only do what is right. You know, that's the difference. And then the next thing I see, I'm a racist. And then I say, racist? I mean, you became a Nazi, you're racist, you're homophobic. You know, someone bothers you, I tell him to stop being a sissy. You are a homophobic if you say this. Stop being a sissy. Behave like a man. You become a homophobic. And then I learned, and then I ask them, are you saying that if I say you're gay, I'm a homophobic? So you actually being a homophobic, because it may be a compliment for you to be gay, and you are saying that is a bad thing. I say, don't try, because I never see an X one. Once they go that way, they never change. Like, it must be good. So the reality, they try everything because I was supporting the police here in New York.
Yeah.
I wasn't supporting, they breaking everything. I wasn't supporting what they are doing, the coward acts that they are doing with my president in Brazil. When I know that he's trying to do, he completely closed the taps of corruption money that was going out like garbage and ruining our country, So for that, they went crazy. And that's why the news, immediately he cut from the global news, $1.5 billion sponsorship that they would get from the National Bank. And he goes, we're the National Bank. This bank is created to pay the employees of the government. Why do we need to spend 1.5 billion? Which makes sense. But the other governments were doing this to get their support. So then they will get the support. The news will play their way. So it's finished. Bolsonaro had $1 million budget to do his campaign. He spent $300,000. He tried to donate the $700,000 to the hospital who saved him from the stab that he got. They didn't let it. Anything he tries to go against, they not even let him donate that money. There was extra that he didn't spend. He was elected by the internet. It was people angry to what the whole corruption situation was happening and what they were doing with the country that got together and started spreading the word. So for that reason, they attack you immediately. They start attacking you like crazy, like you are homophobic, you are a racist. And it was a funny thing. One of the main guys that I have in my academy, I don't know if you saw him there when you were there. His name is Black Rob. Have you seen him?
No, I didn't see him. I was only there once or twice.
It's a big black guy. He used to be a police officer in Poughkeepsie when I went there to do a seminar, and I fell in love with the guy. The guy was one of the best shows ever. Funny, sarcastic. I say, what are you doing here? Come move to New York. Start working with me at the academy, and you're going to get your black belt, and soon you can have your school. You're going to be working here in the middle of nowhere, Poughkeepsie, all the way up in upstate New York. He moved. He started working as a bouncer, training at the academy every day. Today, next time you go to my academy, look, there's a chair that nobody sits on it. That chair belongs to Black Rob, Well, he sits there. It's that we call his throne, So he helps me teaching the class. He helps me run the academy. He's always there. So suddenly they call me a racist. Who gets the most angry? Black Rob. And then he goes, my poor daughter goes, oh, no, but my dad's not a racist. I never see him making and then she stopped and think. He goes, a racist man would never get a black homeless guy from the street in the wintertime, bring him inside the academy, set up his bed next to the heater that was and tell him, look, by 7 o'clock, the students will be arriving, you have to leave. But you sleep here right next to the heater, you're going to be fine. So he slept there for a week. And I told him, if you need food, there's food there, there's drinks, but don't touch in people's stuff. Well, he slept there for like a week. This guy became a close friend of mine. Like he would give me books to read. He would find books and bring it to me for many years, And every day I would leave my car at the door. He goes, I'm going to watch. I say, thank you. And every time I walk out, I give him $20. And by the way, $20, so nobody knows, is the cost of a night in a hotel in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where a lot of homeless go there to sleep. So they have an opportunity to have a shower. So I always wait until it was 9 o'clock so he wouldn't drink. He would go to the hotel and be able to pay for it.
Got it.
That's the racist that I am,
So that's why I saw those posts on your Instagram of all these people saying these great things about Renzo. I was like, what is this? Because everybody knows that Renzo is like that. Like everybody knows you got a big heart.
The good thing I have, a good friend is the one that comes in with a flying kick. He doesn't come in to pull you out of the fight. He comes in with a flying kick. So all these amazing souls, they came in and they went off on them. I said, not him. You talk about somebody else, And it was a funny thing because the Brazilian president goes, Renzo, you are the only one who says whatever you want and you can get away with.
You are old school, Renzo. You're old school. You are.
Like the president of France claiming why I was so angry with them claiming the Amazon was on fire. They made me an ambassador of tourism. I'm in Miami at the office of American Airlines, having a meeting with the Brazilian tourism president and the president of American Airlines of Florida. As I'm there, they have in a big screen in the wall all the reservations, all the flights that are going to Brazil, whatever flight is going to Brazil, he has up in the screen. The moment we are there, we begin our meeting there, that's when the news come out that the Amazon is on fire. Through Macron, right? The president of France. As the news it's going, we had a meeting for like 2-3 hours. As this is going, the president keeps looking up and seeing how many cancellations of tourists going to Brazil because of that news. Immediately, Madonna reposted and posted, and then Leonardo DiCaprio did it, and all the big celebrities started doing that. And I stayed in the Amazon for 3 months and a half. Believe, if that place could catch fire, I would have set that on fire. I was there, I was 14 years old for 3 months and a half. That place is impossible to burn. What they talk about burning is where they raise the cattle, which is near Belém and near Acre. And then they had pictures here in America of a fire in the jungle and a giraffe running. A giraffe. I don't believe we have a giraffe in the Amazon.
So it's overdone.
So I was very insulted. That's why I did that comment that went viral everywhere.
Yeah.
Macron, and it was on the news in the UK, I think on the Sun. They posted.
Does it ever surprise you, Renzo, that you went from, fighting in a cage in Rio, and now you're the tourism ambassador to Brazil. You're doing deals with sheikhs, multiple deals with sheikhs in the UAE, and then the president of France is calling you out, or is this just the normal life of Renzo Gracie?
There is a lot of more things that happen, believe. I have a crew now doing a documentary. These guys came, and they arrived yesterday. I had a meeting with them until late last night. They came to meet me one day that we sat by my academy, and they watched just 6 hours of my life. And they go, we're doing a documentary on him. So they're here. They're going to begin shooting on Saturday now. Okay. They're going to begin it begins this week. It's a funny thing. They stay with me for just 5 hours. And then yesterday we stayed together for like 4 hours yesterday, 4 or 5 hours.
All right.
You're like, Renzo, we have an idea, and I'm collecting information from everywhere, and I'm going to ask you this, and I want you talking. So we're going to start doing it. In reality, it's like I told you, it's just the confirmation of this amazing tool that is Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu, it's a tool that you are able to approach people. You're able to be honest to people. You're able to, it's like people say, why do you smile so much? I'm unafraid. I'm not hiding from nothing. It's like people say, why in reality people lie? It's like with me, even when lying will be the best option, I still tell the truth. So by doing that, I will have a smile to anybody. At the same time, I will fight anybody anytime because and I probably will be his friend next. Like this week, I got a picture. The guy, Renzo, do you remember we were in a competition and we started the fight and I start putting my hand in your face and doing this and you move it weird and then I did it again, you punch me. I say, yes, I consider it a lack of respect back then. And I said, I didn't know it was you. And I go, and that may explain why we're so good friends now. So I'm helping him. He's now working with the Minister of Sports in Brazil. And I'm putting everything together to improve the sports in Brazil, to have Jiu-Jitsu in the schools in Brazil, and to have the Olympics between the students of the whole country. I'm helping them together with Mubadala, which is the company from the Emirates. That's what I was doing this whole week. I said, that's why maybe I like you so much. It's because I hit you once. And we became true friends if we can overcome that,
And so tell me about New York and your academy, because, Hickson went to LA and Hoyler went to San Diego and Hoist went to Torrance and Roger Gracie came to London, but you went to New York City, the cold place, and you created that academy from nothing. And now 20 some years later, before COVID, it was the most successful academies probably in the world. Why did all that happen?
It was a funny thing. I never thought I would leave Brazil. In my head, I had to live in San Francisco one time for 6 months because I had a fight with some guys from the militia in Brazil, and they really want to kill me. And just to bring peace to my mom and my dad, I actually left the country. I say, I'm going to leave for 6 months. And Dad, if you cannot fix this, I'm going to come back and I'm going to be the one hunting them. You know, and they were very easy to spot. You're talking to a guy who doesn't sleep. You can't get a fight with a guy who doesn't sleep. You know, if you sleep, you lose it. And I told my dad, I said, Dad, because my love of you and Mom, and you guys are always worried, I'm going to leave for 6 months. If this is not fixed in 6 months, I'll come back and it's going to be a different ballgame. So I left and I lived in San Francisco for 6 months. So I had the opportunity to see California, to see everything there. And then after I went to Australia, I stayed in Australia for a month. I love Australia too, but I said I could never leave. I could never leave Brazil. I'm going to age. I'm going to help Brazil to get better. I'm going to live my life there. I'll build champions there. And then even if I have to leave in a little bit more restricted way financially, I'll be fine there. Until the day that I came to New York. You know, when I came to New York, even though everybody chose California, Florida, because the weather, you know, the girls in bikini in the beach. Surfing, yeah, because normally Jiu-Jitsu guys, they all surf.
Yeah.
You know, and I get to New York. And this is my wife, Christina.
Bom dia, Christina.
Say hi.
Hi.
Bom dia, Christina.
Hi.
She's impressed with your clothes.
Good.
For a fact.
Good.
You're looking too good. So I get to New York. What I see is the most amazing center of culture. I thought immediately that I was in the crossroads of the world. I had on 29th Street, I had the Muslims. On 31st Street, I had the Koreans. I had Little Italy. I have Little Brazil at 46. I could buy all the things that I had in the supermarket at 46th Street, New York. You know, so suddenly I see a Japanese. I see the Chinese, Chinatown. I see Muslims praying on the street. I see the Orthodox Jews. You know, I got offered. I'm such a Nazi that I got offered to run a school in the basement of a synagogue. Teaching, yeah, this is the kind of a Nazi that I am, you know, like, you know, they really want to put me there. And that's now I have a school on the Upper West Side, 72nd and Columbus. You know, most of the students are Jewish, you know, up there, Upper West Side. Before we closed, we had 510 new students there. That was amazing. We built that in 10 months of academy.
Wow.
So Jiu-Jitsu is really taking off in New York, you know. And when I was here that I saw this, I say, I have to live in New York. I have to have access to all this information. Here was easy to fly anywhere. A flight to Japan, an economy class was $400. A flight to Brazil was $400, you know, round trip. I say from here, life gets easy. You know, if it's exactly like Frank Sinatra's song, if you can make it here, you're going to make it everywhere. And it was the biggest door opening I had the opportunity to see. Like I told you, I was 52 times in Japan. It was easy to fly back and forward. It was easy to go anywhere. It was easy to be in Abu Dhabi with my friends, the Sheiks, you know. And I was able to put many things together thanks to this, how easy, how central, and how important, and how much access you have on everything once you're in New York.
Right. And
and I end up, I actually live 40 minutes from the city. I live in a town called Homedale. And the reason that I chose this town was because it was one of the best schools in America back then. It was rated as like a top school. And I have no kids who became a doctor. They all work in Jiu-Jitsu.
They do.
Yeah.
And with your academy in New York, it started off with kind of like tough guys and fighters, but soon it evolved into be Wall Street bankers and sheiks. And I mean, you must have had some fascinating people come through your academy.
This is the beauty of my school. You have It's like every time I go there, it's like I read a book. I learned from everyone. There was so many different situations. I teach from the guy who shined shoes at Madison Square Garden to the guy who took America out of the crisis in 2008. 2008, yeah, 2008.
Yeah.
The guy who actually was responsible for bringing back America financially to become well again was my student. And how I knew that, I never knew what his job was. I was actually here at home, my phone rings, and it's one of my students from Brazil who used to own the Bank of America in Brazil. He goes, Renzo, I just got the book of the Pope of economics. He wrote this book, and there's a whole chapter talking about you. I go, fine, I have no clue. The guy, I'm sending you a picture. He sent me a picture. I said, yeah, that's my student. And he don't have me trained as he should. What happened that I realized only after I went to show him the book, and his name is Rich Stab. When I show him the book, he sent me, and I went to show him the book, he goes, Renzo, yeah, that was the problem. When 2008 hit, the crisis came, I had to move to Washington. And I could only come training 1 day a week, which was Saturdays. So he would drive, train, and then drive back, you know? And I remember saying, well, you never told me. He goes, Renzo, you treat everybody in here the same.
It's true.
There's no difference, yeah. You know, you are unique. One story with, there was a story with the homeless guy that I told you. He was sitting there. When I came back then, sometimes I would come by train. So I would pass by Starbucks. I'll grab if it was winter, it was a chocolate, hot chocolate. If it was summer, it was a cold coffee. So I'll bring the coffee and 2 pieces of cake, one for him, one for me. So I would sit with him on the street, you know, sit next to him, give his piece. This day I was starving, but I'm waiting to eat with him and drink the hot chocolate with him. I sit down and put it, he grabs his, I grab mine. And we're laughing already, joking. When I go to open mine, my cake falls straight on the floor. Boom. When it fell, the first thing I thought, the 3-second rules. I reached forward immediately, and I went to eat. The homeless guy hit my hand. Don't. I look at him, he goes, don't eat from the floor. Here, he grabs half of his cake, breaks in half, gives me half, right? This phone never rings, man. You must bring me luck. This is a fax. So he goes, no. He grabs half of his cake, breaks, and gives me half. When he gives me half, his nails are long and completely black. Dirt everywhere. It was 10 times dirtier than the ground. I look at that, I grab it, and I start eating and having my hot chocolate. And then we keep talking about everything. We finish, I give him a hug. And I say, I got to go teach. When I hug him, you know, there's a car parked right in front of us with tilt windows. I couldn't see inside. So I hug him. I say, I got to go teach. When I stand up, the door open. It's Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie walks out with his gi because it's time for the class. He looks at me and he goes, you never cease to amaze me. I go, what do you thought? VIP treatment was just for you? And then he goes, I know it's not just for me. That's why this is my academy. You know, that's why this is my school. You know, I said, get your ass in there. Let's go train, man. We went, you know. And Guy, he left. He was a brown belt. So he wasn't living here. And I didn't see him for many years, you know. Then when he released the movie, A Man from U.N.C.L.E., the release was here in New York.
Right.
The red carpet, everything here. So I went there with his black belt. So in the middle of all that crowd, I start hitting him, you know, and then I tied the belt. Only he could understand what was going on. The security knew because the security were my students too. And I didn't know by chance. Yeah. So I put him, he was the whole night in a white suit with a butterfly tie and his black belt walking around all proud, you know, it's amazing. And then he told me that many times he was in academies and he could sense that people are going to give him his black belt. He went to the bathroom, jumped the window, and took off, not to embarrass them and not to accept a black belt, because he goes, he can only be from Renzo, you know?
Wow. That's amazing.
Amazing, amazing.
What's the secret to a good academy, Renzo? How you able?
Brother, you have to understand one thing. We think about, oh, let's make tough. Let's make a real fighting place. I run a school like this for many years, many, many years. And I could never pass 150 students. I could never pass. And one day I go to grab a pizza. And that was the school that you went on 30th Street, the big one where you had the private with John Donna.
Yeah.
So I go on the corner to have a pizza. When I get in, there's this huge guy, huge, very muscular. He was probably like 6'5", huge guy. His son was 11 years old. He was as tall as me. He was 5'10", like me. And the guy goes, Renzo Gracie. I say, oh, man, you like the fights? And I go to shake his hand, give him a hug. He goes, yes, I train. I say, you train? He goes, yeah, I train at Matt Serra, which was my school in Long Island. When Matt got his black belt, we passed to him, and he does an unbelievable job, makes unbelievable champions. So when he tells me, oh, train at Matt, I say, oh, man, how's that is? Like, I was trying to say, oh, I love it. He goes, oh, in the beginning, it was very scary. I go, huh? Yeah, I was very insecure, It was the first man that really told me what he thought, how we had set up the whole thing. And then you have to understand, you know what his job was? He was a fireman. So you're talking about a guy who's going to go into a building on fire to save a cat. Like I would call the cat from outside. Come. I wouldn't go there to get him. He goes, so he's one of the tough. He was like 260 pounds, 250 pounds. So it's not an average guy from the office, a nerd who works on the computer the whole day. I say, if this guy was insecure, imagine the average Joe, So I say, something's wrong. I got to change this. So I went back. We start, me, Ricardo Almeida, Jim Dunn, and a couple more students, we start developing how we could build the confidence and keep them there. And then I found out that it would take you 32 days for you to create a habit. We extend that to 3 months. Instead of 32 days, I said, let's make it 3 months, the first 3 months. And I designed the whole classes with them to make the student comfortable with. We would make a warm-up that was very easy. Even if you're completely out of shape, you could do it. So that's the part that the guy looks and goes, I can do that. And that already brought people in. And then I would show the techniques. And when you were a beginner, everything under control. I wouldn't let a full training happen. I would make just positions training, and they learning, and they learn how to pass the guard, go back. So the guy could defend the guard and give it everything. When the guy land across side, he would never panic. He would never feel uncomfortable. So go back, do it again, then switch. Then it's his time to play on top. So even the little guy with the big guy, they would switch and they would experience all the situations. And that will build them confidence, will make them comfortable to train. And then after 3 months, they will start going, they will get a stripe, they will start going to the advanced class. They could join the other class. I went from 150 students in 4 months to 450. I was able to triple the number of my students by doing that. And another thing that I did that I learned by, like you can see, I like to read a little bit.
Yeah.
And now I have a new technique because my wife doesn't let me buy any more books. What I do, I hide the books behind the books. When she realized I have double my collection. So I read the book from Starbucks.
Right.
One of the main things that they used that was amazing was when you get in there and you order a coffee, they say, what's your name, sir? And they put it on. And the moment that you give the name, she repeats the name to you once. Then she calls you. She calls you by your name and then makes you feel comfortable and you come back. People don't realize this was one of the main things that helped the growth of Starbucks all over the world because you felt like they know you. And especially in a culture like America, like I remember one time I go to have a beer here. I say, let me have a Corona. She puts the Corona, $6, sir. It's like in Brazil, if they give you the tab before you ask, that means they don't want you there. It's the biggest thing. So, and I bet in many other cultures too, you know? So they never let you feel comfortable. Maybe you want to have 3 or 4. Why, you know? But here was different. In the gym that I went, here, the woman would keep her eye just like this. And as I walk in, she'd keep her eye just as I plug my name in, my number in. And she goes, thank you. And back to whatever she was doing. But she never let her eye see me. So for 3 years I was there. Suddenly a friend of mine buys the gym. And I go, and he goes, Renzo, there's anything here that you think I should change? I say, yes. Or you fire the lady, or you put her to work where she doesn't have to deal with people. And he goes, oh, and then I explain to him, he goes, I never thought of that. I say, believe it makes a difference. The only time she actually raised her eye and spoke to us was when Mario Van Peebles, the actor, came to train with me here, and he stayed in my house for a week. And we went to work out. He wanted to see how my life was, so we went to work out in the gym. When he walked in, she goes, Mario Van Peebles, what are you doing here with him? Like, with him. You know, like, and he goes, this is the guy. I'm lucky to be here with him. I'm learning from him, you know? But this is the funny thing. Like, some people just value if they think they can get something back, you know? And so I changed that at my academy. I stopped putting everybody with their names here. And I made every instructor call every single one at least 3 times by their name, by their first name. So the school exploded. We got to 1,500 students there, you know, insane. It's 18 classes a day. I have the #1 team of Muay Thai of the East Coast. We won 1 year 13 titles, the next year 16 titles, the following year 13 titles again.
Wow.
Yeah, insane. And these 3 first months that we had this year, January, February, March, was our record of growth.
Wow.
You know, it was insane. Yeah. Yeah. My daughters work there running the office. They run the whole thing. And we're beginning a whole line of clothes, gis, and a bunch of different things that we're going to start investing and making happen, you know. And unfortunately, COVID stopped there for a little bit, but I'm not even worried. I'm just waiting to go back to the fight.
Okay.
Know? It's like when you're in Jiu-Jitsu, getting your butt kicked, hang in there. While you're the nail, hang in there.
Right.
You have a chance to become the hammer, hit hard. That's the secret.
So
I'm waiting for the chance to become the hammer.
So how have you dealt with this year and COVID and everything? How?
It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. I was able to keep the professionals training on the basement. I did some fixing on my academy. Fortunately, I was financially well enough that I could afford to keep it closed and could pay. I didn't fire nobody. I kept everybody in my team there working, you know. So it's the academy for sure is going to return stronger than before. You know, I feel sorry I try to help the other people who have schools in the city. I try to get the same license that I have for them too, you know. And I don't want to see them closing, you know. I want to see them as successful as I am. And but I heard some of them will be closing doors because it's hard times, and you know they didn't have the setup the way that I had to be able to resist this crazy pandemic, and they didn't expect to last that long.
How did you create? I mean, how were you part of the evolution of legends like Matt Serra and John Danaher and Ricardo Almeida? I mean, you know, it's not a coincidence, Renzo, that these great teachers and great fighters came from you.
There's a very simple explanation. I had 2 people who inspire me unbelievably well. One was my father. I don't remember playing with him since I was 3 years old. There wasn't something about Jiu-Jitsu. He would put me on his back, put me the hooks, hold me, hold there, put the pressure on the neck, oh, I tap. I knew that. I don't have one memory of him that we were not, like he wasn't teaching me something positive for my life and how to be it. For you to have an idea, when I was like 10, 11, 12, I would go and spend my whole day with him. I wouldn't talk. I just walk. He would go downtown, do his business meeting, talk to his friends and do everything. And I'll be next to him just listening and learning. So that man was a soul that made me a lot of what I am today. And the other one was my Uncle Hollis. My Uncle Hollis Gracie, the one who died of a hang gliding accident. He was the best teacher, the most open-minded, the guy that your success was his success. There was not 1 gram of jealousy on him. There was no 1 gram of greed. He wanted the same that he wanted for himself, he wanted for everybody else. And he was the biggest influence. I remember, and my way, like I'm a black belt on judo. I trained boxing, I trained Muay Thai, and it was all thanks to him. He ran the team of wrestling in Brazil. He was a jiu-jitsu guy running the wrestling team in Brazil. And this is 1978. He went to the first Worlds. The Brazil compete on the first Worlds, thanks to him. So he was an open mind. He brought Americans to teach wrestling, you know, and until today, this wrestler was one of the best wrestlers in America. And he best coach too. He was the coach of Range Couture.
Okay.
This guy, someone went to his where he lives. He had a trophy for Hollis, and when he grabbed that trophy, he started crying. He goes, "That was one of the most amazing souls I ever met." He died at 33. You know, an unbelievable athlete, an unbelievable person, and a very giving. And I was his student. My father loved him, and even though he was very young, there was older brothers that could teach me. He chose that Hollis, and you know, he was my main teacher, and he was the one who set out the standards. And he was the teacher of my teacher, Carlinhos, the one that kept his work after he died. You know, I stayed with Carlinhos for my whole life. Carlinhos today runs the Gracie Barras, you know. Right. They have over 300 Gracie Barras all over the globe. You know, and I was, the standards that were set were so high, I couldn't go halfway. You know, we know what I love. I love surfing. I love relax. I stopped. And I was very good at surfing. I compete. I beat very good people in surfing competitions. And when I say beat, it was on their sport, not by choking them out. You know? But the standards were set so high that I couldn't accept be shallow. You know, keep walking and swimming in warm waters. I want depth. I want cold water. I want emotions. I want to leave. When I leave this planet, I can look back and hear my feet hitting like drums, everything and everywhere that I want. That's what I chose to do. You know, so I'm not, it's like, I think that's one of the reasons I don't have gray hair yet. I'm 53 and I don't have 1 gray hair. You know, it's because it's like I still feel like I'm 10 years old, 12 years old. I still feel like I was playing kindergarten and I kicked the ball up in the air and I never heard it bouncing back. You know, it's still that little kid inside of me doing what I do and doing what I love.
And it's strange because you got a big smile, you're always making people laugh, but then you're ready to fight anytime and your standards are super high and you're super passionate and you like taking risks. I mean, it's a strange combination for most people.
Love and hate, they walk like this, right next to each other. But you have to understand, fighting for me is so natural. I don't get insulted. If I fight someone, I forgive him. You know, I don't care, but we have a disagreement. That's how it was with the people that I love the most, my brothers. You know how many times we fought? You know, we fought many times. And then we finished the end of the day. I'll grab like a candy or an ice cream. I put one next to him and I kept one for myself. You know, that was my life was always like this. And the intensity, the way that we talk to each other, but that is love. When you can do this, it's a funny thing. It's like I have brothers who call me and they just curse me on the phone. They call me a very bad name. And then I go, I miss you too. He's cursing me. And I'm telling him, I miss you, my brother. I miss you too much. What do we do? I just call you to say this. And he curses me again. I say, okay, how's your kids? How is this? And then he hangs up. That's Half. Half does that a lot. You know, I laugh. I said that this is his way of saying I love you, you know, but he's so tough. He don't want to be sentimental. So he curses me. He calls me bad names. And, you know, it's not an insult because I know how much I love him and how much he loves me. So it's, you know, doesn't exist an insult there. And it's different. It's a different approach. We don't see it today because everybody want to be politically correct. You know, they're now changing the feminine names and the masculine names in Brazil. They put in, if A and O, they put in E. So they say, if you say all, todos, it sounds like a male name because it's OS in the end. And if it's todas, means the women. So then they want to change and put an E, todes. So how can we live in a world like this? You know, when you talk about mankind will be soon because they're going to put an E over there. You know, it's like, man, there's nothing more beautiful than the woman's soul. And I believe in reincarnation. I believe we are spiritual. Because I meet some people that I swear they just came from a monkey. They just migrate to be a human soul. And I believe a soul doesn't have a sex. It's not male or female. It's according to what you have to do and what you have to leave to make you evolve. I think we all going towards a light that is going to make us better, you know? And not it's like gay people. I love many. I have friends gay. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. And honestly, I believe they are a soul that were a feminine soul, and then suddenly they need to be born a man, and they didn't have the time to do the full transition. I do believe 100% that. You know, and it's even a funny thing to say because normally I don't say this to nobody. I'm telling you, you know, I say, how can I see these souls as the suffering? The first prejudice that they suffer is the eye of their father, because normally the father is not gay. The father is married to his mother and had him. So the moment that he starts becoming feminine, the first prejudice that he feels, the first censorship he feels is from the eyes of his father. So how can I look down at them? How can I make them feel bad about themselves? You know, how can I not give a hug when they need? You know, the truth is, man, you are pure to everyone, even to a dog. Even a dog who beat me, I took care of the thing. I beat him back, but we became friends. And I will give him food. There's one here that every day I buy salami or presunto because he loves, and I give it to him. And especially because he doesn't bite my grandson. They're very good friends, so we became friends. But it was an adopted dog. So this is life. Problems will appear. We have to solve them. You know, it's like if you don't expect to have problems, you are the problem.
Yeah.
This is life.
Yeah.
So you can't let that put you down.
Renzo, you mentioned brothers, and you know we all know one of your brothers who passed away, Ryan, who was a great fighter in Pride, such an intense guy in a ring full of intense guys. You know, so there was already top fighters, crazy fighters over there, but Ryan, when he came, I mean nobody forgot him. But he passed early, and I just wondered what it was like to know him and what it was like to process that whole event, and what did he do?
He was unique. Like, you think I'm honest? He was 10 times more honest than I am. There was with him was black and white. Whatever he thinks he'll say. If you insult him, he'll fight you immediately. You know, his intensity. I remember one time, the first Abu Dhabi, he's there with me. We crossed the arena. He almost got in 3 fights. And I say, what is this? It's hell. I can relax 1 minute. I'm going to be competing and you are picking fights. He goes, we have to educate them. These people, they're always talking no sense. They're insulting people. They're doing wrong things. And they're using Jiu-Jitsu for it. So I got to let them know that I'm not liking. I said, can you wait until Monday? Please, let me finish this. So he was like this. But with me, like my father got divorced from my wife in 1978. That's when I went to live in Baja. That's when we moved. And Ryan was, I believe, 1978, I was 11. He was 4 years old when we moved. So I was the one who looked after him all the time. We had maids in the house, but I was the one that took care of him. I was the one who believed he could be 10 times stronger than I was. So I remember back then we didn't have vitamins, and the right vitamins that they had in America, right? We didn't have that. I used to go to a racetrack for horses, buy the vitamins that they use for horses, and then make the doses for him and put on his bottle. That's why I was 67 kilos. He was 93. You know, I was able to make him extremely strong and training and everything. So I watch after him. If he had fever, I was the one tucking him in bed, overlooking him the whole night. We shared the room. It was me, Ralph, and Ryan. So I was the one taking care of him, making sure that he would do the diet, making sure that he followed the steps of training. I was the father, basically, you know. I was the one teaching him about life. I was 7 years older, you know. And it was an amazing thing because I remember I had the privilege of dealing with a wild animal and never get bitten. You know, he was the one we fight. And when I was sick, well, this nobody talks about, he would put a bed next to my bed and he would lay there the whole night. And throughout the night, he would come put the hand in my head to see if I had fever. You know, so I had the privilege to be with him like nobody else on this lifetime. And some souls, they have to leave earlier because it's, you know, we don't see them aging. The funny thing, we don't see them getting old, you know? And he was one of those. If you tell me, did he die young? I tell you, no. He outlives us all because he lived with such intensity that he probably, the years they accumulate on him, by far, whatever I can put together on this lifetime, you know? And like, you know, when the flame burns intensely, it burns quicker than the ones that make no light and no heat, that produce no light and no heat, you know? So he was one of those. And believe it, if I could go back in time, I would leave everything again exactly the same with him.
Wow.
You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I always think that when people die while we're still alive, they're teaching us valuable lessons, you know, and that super valuable lessons. And that can change our lives, you know, when they leave us early, and they can teach us things about how to live maybe better or more, or how to value life more, you know?
Yes. It's extremely, you're extremely right. You know, and it's a very funny thing. It's like normally we learn what a watch is and the time, how we count. It was a funny thing. I was watching one time a TV show, and the guy said, about they carving a hole in the ozone layer. And the guy looked at him, the guy was special, goes, it doesn't exist, an ozone layer. Huh? Doesn't exist. There is no ozone layer. The guy, the reporter was a little, and he goes, yeah, but people are destroying the Amazon. And he goes, if you take the whole Amazon down, in 20 years, it grows back. The Amazon is there because over there it rains. It's not the other way around. It doesn't rain there because of the Amazon. It's the other way around. So immediately they cut the interview. They were very short after, and this was many years ago. I have that interview. And then I remember the last comment of the reporter was, yeah, but it still would take 20 years. The guy goes, 20 years is a lot of time for you. But for the planet, it's less than a second, 20 years, you know? Boy, and our knowledge is very recent. Actually, it's been recent since I can talk to you right now the way that we are doing now. It's recent that I really can know immediately what's happening in your country by you calling me and telling me what's going on there. You know, before we had to trust news that not, like, you know, many times are not the right, they don't give you the right information, you know, they fall in their own protocol and what they needed and their own needs, you know. And this is, we're lucky for the internet. That completely changed everything. I'm able to be talking to you right here while my wife want to kill me inside there because I'm probably late for something. Yeah. My grandson, how they controlling him.
So I appreciate all the time, Renzo. I guess my last question is...
Stay with you for the whole day if you want.
I appreciate it, man. You're such a generous guy, Renzo. What's next for Renzo Gracie? What's next? What are you doing in 10 years? I mean, you could be doing anything. You might be on Mars.
I may be fighting my neighbor just for fun, so I can share coconut water with him out there. You know, who knows? But it's a funny thing. Like, I see my grandson becoming a fighter, and I'll probably be involved with everything that I do. You know, I'm trying really to help Brazil to get better, you know, to open the frontiers and expand that country and grow in the right way. You know, don't let what's happening right now in terms of corruption and keep going. You know, that really, I had an opportunity and I had the tool, which was Jiu-Jitsu, to allow me to have that access to improve things around, you know. And the funny thing, we imagine you bring $40 billion to a country and not even one news channel mentioned that. One. And that they are using for the roads, they are using for the railway, they're expanding out the communication between inside the country, like on the sense of transportation and everything. And you don't hear one channel, one news mentioning that, you know. It's even funny. you know?
And is that Brazil for you, where you just get different information, or the information or is that today's news media? You just don't get the right information.
The reality is the news media living in the country there, because they were used to be drinking from the breast of the Brazilian government.
Right.
They were fed by the Brazilian government. So all the money came from the Brazilian government. Like actors and people, they'll file a project. The government would finance 100%, and they would not even do the project. For you to have an idea, Circo du Soleil went to Brazil to perform there. They receive, I believe, was like almost $200 million, or like near that, and they still charge. I think it was between $100 and $200 million. They still charge $250 per ticket for the person to watch. So you're a private company. You're pretty sure you're charging for the tickets, but the government is paying for the whole thing. How is that? You know, so they were doing this. So in reality, they would give a kickback to the corrupt politicians of their money. So if they make 100, there is a case of Walid Ismail that he got 1.5 million reais, which is like $300,000. And they took from him 1.3. They left him only with 200,000 reais, which is $70,000, less than $70,000. So that's how it is. Right. And that's how bad of a businessman he is. He was able to give back. And he still has to do an event, you know? And it was this typical of what they were doing,
right?
You know?
Yeah, well, I think we're starting to see these days that no news media can be trusted. We're seeing that this year. The only thing that can be trusted is things like this, Renzo. I mean, if people want to know who Renzo Gracie is, listen to him for 2 hours, and now you know. You don't got to look at a tweet. You don't have to look at an Instagram post. And that's the beauty of it.
And let them know that I'm much better looking in person than I'm on the screen, just to let you guys know.
Renzo, I could talk to you for hours, but I really appreciate the time. And thank you for what you do. For anyone that's watching us who would never think about a jiu-jitsu class, I would say you should try one. It'll change your life. And it doesn't matter if you're 7 years old or 77 years old. If you've got 2 legs that work or 2 legs that don't work, if you got one arm, there's one-arm jiu-jitsu players that'll choke you unconscious, right? So everybody should go find a jiu-jitsu class, right? Because it'll make you better in life.
You change you. It's like a chocolate. Be careful. It's addictive. Once you begin, you can't stop. You're talking about the old man. There was this old guy that used to come in. He's probably like almost 80. He used to come in carrying his gi in a like those luggage that people use in the airport with the wheels, you know?
Yeah.
So he would carry his gi on that. So many times I saw this one day. I go to him and say, "My old man, why you carry your gi in this with wheels, in a cartwheel luggage?" He goes, "Renzo, I come from 4 hours and a half away. If on the beginning, I used to carry my gi, it started giving me back pain. So that's why I carry this." I say, "You come from 4 hours and a half away." And he never told me this for the past 8 years. I say, "Come here 1 second." I go to the front desk. I say, "Cancel his membership. Any payment he makes here, he will never make a payment again. From now on, you're my guest for life. Wherever I am, you have jiu-jitsu." You know, he was like, "Oh," surprised. And I never knew he came from that far, you know. I say, "My man, you have jiu-jitsu for life. And if your kids, whatever you put here, I'm going to take care of them too. I appreciate you coming from so far."
There's a lot of guys that travel far to be in the blue basement. A lot.
It's true. A lot. Even the champions today, Gordon Ryan, his brother Nick, and all those guys, they come from, especially they arrive at the academy at 7 o'clock in the morning. So they come from Jersey when the traffic is going toward Manhattan. So it took them an average in the morning of 3 hours to get there. 3 hours, 3 hours and a half driving. All of them in one car, you know. And then they spend the whole day training, and then they come back later at 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, so that's why they became the champions that they are, like Gordon Ryan and all those Nick Ryan, Nick Rod, and Gary Tonin, you know. That's why they became the champions that they are. They put the effort in hours. But I remember how long it was the drive for them, and they had to go. And this is on traffic. This is every day for years.
Yeah, and nobody sees that hard work that they put in. They just see the results. What's it like?
They only see when you shine. Only when you shine, they recognize the gold, you know. But
yeah, and when you know,
see you eating the bronze, the heavy metals to get there.
And when you hear the Danaher Death Squad in the blue basement, and you got these guys that are just crushing everybody with these leg locks and this no-gi competition that all happens in your house, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great. It makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. You know, it makes me feel that I work on the right direction. It makes me feel that you have to understand one thing. This academy that I have now, it was the dream of Hollis. Hollis, when I was a young 13 years old, he described me, one day my perfect academy will be like this. He described our blue basement that we have today. Wow. So that's what I say. He set the standards that I need to achieve, you know, and that's exactly what happened. Today we have everything there. You don't need to go nowhere else. You have from washing your gis to teaching you wrestling, teaching you judo. We have guys from the Olympic team. You know, we are the people who actually got the first gold medal and bronze medal for the United States in judo. They train with us, you know, they're part of our team. So it's home. It's a fighting home for anybody that loves the art, you know. And and by Hollis telling me back then how he dreamed to have in a school. And that's what I always say, never stop dreaming. And people ask why I don't sleep much. It's because it's while I'm awake that I dream in getting better and making people around me better, you know. So I live my dreams and I make them happen.
Wow. Well, I always heard the stories of Hollis, and I heard about him, and I heard how good he was and the character he was, but I've never heard someone who knew him so well. So, and it's also
I lived on the same building, on the same floor. My door was here, his door was here. So every day when it was time to train, my mother forbid me to bother them. So I would walk to his door and wait there because I knew it was time for him to come out, and I would ride with him to the academy, you know? So I'll wait for him without knocking, without ringing the bell. I'll be right there, and then we go together to the academy.
Wow.
Unbelievable, Uncle. Unbelievable. I was very fortunate.
Renzo, again, I want to thank you for changing my life. I don't know what I would have done without the jiu-jitsu. And it came out of nowhere, like out of nowhere. I hadn't broken a sweat in 10 years and wasn't going to break a sweat for 10 years. I hadn't done martial arts, you know, in forever. And then boom, I got the call because of your academy in New York, and it changed my whole life. It's why this show even exists. So again, I'm one of many millions of people around the world that probably owes you a big debt. You've got a huge heart, Renzo. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, my brother. It's a pleasure to have you as part of our family.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Muito obrigado, sir. I'm going to come to New York. I'm going to train with you. When you come to London to see Hajar, stop by and see us.
You have my number. Give me a call at any time. Anytime.
All right.
I'll be waiting for you here, brother.
All right. Muito obrigado. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Bye. And thank you all for watching us on London Real. We'll see you next time. Take care.